be seeing the C-list slide presentation right now on the screen. And I don't really have a way of confirming that, so
Stephen, we're not seeing it in Zoom.
of course not. Oh, right. There we go. Now you should be seeing a forest, beautiful, lovely forest.
Yep.
And now you should be seeing the slides. Okay. All right. And put that in here so we can easily go back and forth. All right. Okay. Finally, 17 minutes later. So, what this is a launch and demo of something that I've called C-List. What I've done is I've built at long last something like a personal learning environment, a real personal learning environment, which is an application intended for one person. I see I got some more people in the waiting room. I'm letting you all in. There we go. Um, it's also a way of decentralizing and disaggregating our conversations on the social internet, on the federated internet in the Fediverse. C-List is an old name for me. It's a new name for all of you. I know it's a terrible name, forgive me. It stands for Convergent Discussion List. And we'll talk a bit about that as we go along. So, but first, some caveats. I have, after those first 17 minutes, I probably don't need any caveats, but here they are anyways. What you're going to see is a prototype, not a completed application. I was writing code at 10 minutes to 12. And I have some more code right after this presentation finishes. That's the way it goes. This is a live demo, so some of these things might not work. Go figure. Yes, it's true. Other people have done some of the same things that I've done in this demo. As usual, I waive all claims of originality. I did it first. This is the world's first. That's not the point. The point is the idea, not the discovery. No, it's not fully secure. Don't use this in production. It goes with it's a prototype. And finally, for those of you who look at the code, I know it could have been done better. I know it could have been done in other ways. I probably should have done X, Y, and Z, but I didn't. I went to whatever I thought would work. But we'll address that. There's some design considerations I want to cover as well. And I know, Alan Levine, you always say begin with the demo. This whole presentation is the demo. So I'm beginning with the caveats and the design considerations. Then everything else is demo. This is a single user application. It's not a multi-user application. There's not a platform like, I don't know, Twitter or Facebook or even Mastodon or Flickr or pretty much anything else you use on the internet. This is a one user application. Secondly, completely open source. On GitHub, where it is, it's actually listed as CC0 in the code. I've listed it as CC by NA, whatever. CC by. I haven't even precluded commercial applications. I don't care. This is for the world. Nobody should own this. Nobody can own this. It was designed that way. It's designed to be distributed and decentralized. So, yeah, I could have written a central thing that would have done something more efficiently, but I didn't. It's designed to be as simple as possible for the user. And that's going to mean a bunch of things as we go through, and I'll talk about that. The ideal is that it'll run anywhere. Um, Still working on that, but I want it to be able, you can run it on a single plane website. I want it to be able to run on a desktop in a no internet environment, or maybe put it in an Electron shell and run it from there, whatever. Still working on that, but that's the idea. And then finally, it's just plain HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. There are no packages or libraries or anything like that. There's no Node, there's no React. You don't have to do crazy installs to get it working. You take the code, you put it on your website, you're running it. Okay, so let's get started with it. And here you see what it looks like. I kind of like the design. I definitely like the color green. Okay. If we look at this, this is the application. The flow of the application runs from left to right. It's modeled on the principle aggregate, remix, repurpose, feed forward. For those of you who know me, it's based on connectivist principles. It's the idea of being a node in the network. This is what a node does. So the flow, there's always the flow from the left pane through to the read to the right to the right. Because again, I'm not good at naming things. Okay, so let's get started. Here's what it looks like when you start. Oh, and actually, I'll log it out. Here we go. I'll just reload it. Here's what it looks like when you start. And so we'll log in. This is my tribute to that zombie show, The Walking Dead. Okay, so I'm logged in. Now, what's happened there is there's a standalone identity server. Right now, it's just a simple key value store that I wrote in Python. Any installation of PLE or of CList, wherever it's located, can use this ID store, this identity server. You don't have to be on the same server. You don't have to be in the same country, nothing like that. Um, the idea is that this becomes something more robust over time, certainly with better security, although your password's encrypted, your information's all encrypted. But I want everything. Oh, that sound in the background is my cat up chucking his lunch for lunch. Unbelievable. I've got an up chucking cat in my presentation. Good, Emma. Uh, it's been that kind of day. Should have seen what I did on the waffle iron this morning. It was not pretty. All right. So basically, what this does is standardize a way of interacting between an identity server and my application script. So the first thing I've implemented on this is Mastodon. You're probably all familiar with Mastodon. So let's have a look. So I can read. Here are some Mastodon accounts. I've got 2 accounts, Downs and OL Daily, on mastodon.social, and then another account on mastodon.co-social. They're all accessible here in the same environment. So here, for example, is my Mastodon account, and here's what the feed looks like when I read it in. So hooray, I've created a Mastodon client. Well, hooray, I've created a multi-account Mastodon client, or a multi-instance Mastodon client. Again, other people have done this. So basically, what I've done is standardized a way of displaying feeds. So This is the overview of what the feeds do. Each feed has a list of options. Different feeds or different services have different options. And so there's a way of designing handlers in the system for each of the different functions that the servers provide for you. And then you can read as much stuff as there is. It's not live synchronous the way a Mastodon server usually is, where you see new posts as they appear. You have to reload to see the new posts because it was easier that way and clearer that way. Um, Here's what a single post looks like. And again, for any given post or status, there may be actions underneath that a person can take. So if we come back here, so here's my following. Let's go back to my Downs account. I can keep a look at my bookmarks. Lists are supported, and I can select a list from here. And there it is. This is the local. I hope there's nothing bad because I'm on Mastodon Social. You never know. The local feed is here also for hashtags. I can go for the photography hashtag or oops. No, that's oh, it's up here. So I can go for is there an Iceland hashtag? There might be. No. Oh well. Or I can look at the posts from a given user. I bet you this fails as well. I don't know the name of the user off the top of my head, so okay. As well, I can post something and try to spell it correctly. So here's my posted status. And if we pop over onto Mastodon, there it is. Okay, well, it's moderately exciting. Um, what else can I do? Well, let's go back to read again and let's remove some of these things. Let's reload it. It's easier than removing these things. There we go. Reloads real easily. Let's go to Blue Sky. I have a Blue Sky account. Same place, same system. Different list of options at the top, different list of options down here because we do different things. So I can just pop right in. I can do this with Mastodon as well. I can just pop right into the actual original post. I can look at my favorites. I can look at what's hot. I can do a search, etc. I can reply. I can boost. Let's boost Marshall Kirkpatrick's thing, etc. Um, so we've got a neat client for Mastodon and for Blue Sky where I can read all of these things in the same place. So one of the things that CList does that you won't notice unless I tell you, and I often forget to tell people about this, is that it auto translates behind the scenes. So I get a lot of Mastodon posts, especially in languages that I don't understand, like Slovenian. I really do. Um, so I've hooked it up to a Google AI account and it automatically translates stuff as it comes in. I don't even see it. It's invisible to me. It just translates. So again, I just added this as an account, and let me take you briefly into the accounts window. This is the KV store, your identity server that I talked to you about before. So these are my accounts. I can add new accounts. For each account, say my Mastodon account. Here's my Mastodon account. Here's my Google Translate account, etc. So I just have all of my accounts here in one place. So it's not just an identity server, it's an account server. You can jump in at any time to speak because I'm a boring person. All right. Okay. I don't believe that really. All right. So there's Blue Sky. Again, if we ever get multiple Blue Sky servers, it will support multiple accounts from Blue Sky or multiple accounts from the same server if that's what you want. There's all kinds of stuff behind the scenes in Blue Sky that's really cool that I could hook into. I haven't hooked into, but there's a lot of potential there. So as I mentioned, there are different feed and status actions. Basically, what I've done is I've standardized this. It's kind of like setting a specification, except it's not really setting a specification because as time goes by, I think people might have their own opinions as to what these should be and how they should be displayed. There's my list of icons that I use, sort of a handy dandy list. So I can reply, boost, favorite or like, um, bookmark, bracket. I want to do a delicious like social bookmarking. I haven't found a good service to hook into yet, but I want to have that so that you can just bookmark from here into that social bookmarking. Anyhow, view the original thread, etc. Um, Speaking of threads, let's go into Blue Sky. So I'll just close this up and we'll go back to reading and we'll read. Obviously, this doesn't refresh properly. So let's read the timeline. Let's read the timeline. And let's reload. Sky. Let's read the timeline. There we go. Okay. So here's a thread. This thing by Lawrence, by the way, was written probably in Slovenian. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what he wrote it in. I don't care. Uh, so here's the thread. Ooh, that's a bit long. There are limits to this, but so this might not work. Click on this button. Nope, it's too long. Unfortunately, there are what they call token limits on these accounts. I can't fix that because that's their thing, but let's try a different thread. Marshall's threads are usually short. Yeah, here we go. So I'll click on this and again, I've got as an account separately a Chat GPT account linked to this. And now here's the summary of that thread produced by Chat GPT, placed into the feed as though it were another post in the feed. So, okay, I've got a Mastodon Blue Sky client with AI summarization. What do you do? Uh, okay. And that's how I was feeling as I was coding this, right? Yeah, that's a good exercise, but what really have you done? Well, I decided to add RSS and OPML. So that's what I did. Again, they're defined in the KV store. And I wrote a standalone OPML to JSON client. Um, Anyone can access this and use it for their own purposes. It doesn't have to be used by CList, but what it does is it takes a list of RSS feeds that are defined in a format called OPML. It reads those feeds, and then brings in the content and converts that content to JSON. So we'll see that in action here. So Here's one. It's open ed. Now you might be noticing nothing is happening. Well, pretend there's a little spinner wheel spinning. I haven't implemented that for this yet, but stuff is happening. There we go. Now, so what's happening here is it retrieved the OPML file. Now it's retrieving all the RSS feeds, and now it has converted all those RSS feeds, and we just have to wait a few seconds. There we go. So these are a bunch. This is the Open Ed RSS list that I got from somewhere. It's not mine. But here's Martin Weller. Here's David Wiley. Here's Doug Belshaw. Here's Open World, Creative Commons, etc. So again, just like any of the statuses, we only have one command up here. Could think of other things to put in here, but there's room if you think of anything. And of course, let's see what David Wiley's saying right now. The OELMS architecture, the technical power of generative AI meets the participatory power of OER. Oh, can't wait to read that. Okay, so that's David Wiley. Because these posts are often longer than the short version here, I also have the ability to expand them so I can read it right in here. I don't always have to pop into the original thing. John Mayer, your profile is great because as I'm talking, I look over at all the people who are watching, and you just have your photo showing, but it's a good approving smile. And so I look over there and I'm getting your approving smile, and I'm thinking, oh, he likes it. And then I continue on inspired. Okay. So if you're all wondering, that's the sort of thing I think about when I'm talking. All right. So here's another one. I just called it Cogdog. I was sort of back and forth on this. The full name is Cogdog's podcast list, and I was having a little coding issue, and I thought, well, maybe it's the apostrophe in the title because databases and all of that. But I don't think it was. But I just left it as Cogdog. So anyhow, and again, okay, here we go. So here are all the podcasts that David Wiley, that Alan Levine is listening to. So that's kind of nice. I'd like to listen to them too, so I can. I don't know if you're able to hear that over the Zoom. Oh, went away, come back. But it was really loud in my earphones. So you can listen to your podcast, and this will just keep playing in the background. As you're doing stuff, if you need inspiration. And again, the podcasts like the RSS, like Blue Sky, like Mastodon, all comes in this standard kind of presentation. So that's my reading. So far, so good. Any questions? No? Got a thumbs up from Gerald. So thank you, Gerald. Okay. So there's the information about the podcast player. Again, I used, what did I use? I used, I forget what I used. But it's an open source audio. Oh, it's just the native audio player in the browser is what I used. And then I just used HTML and CSS to create style the players. Nothing fancy. So, convergence. Why is this called convergence? The whole concept here, and I could go on this in theory. Oh, there's a whole bunch of chats in the chat that I've been missing. Oh, anarchist rules as simple as possible. No podcasts on here. Oh, okay. All right. So I'll leave that open in the other on the other screen there. So I'll catch the corner of my eye. Somebody adds anything. So we've got these different sources of information, all these Mastodon streams or feeds and OPML feeds. So it's content that can come in from anywhere. But the way all of these things work in the old style discussion lists, as well as the new style social media, and even RSS and OPML, your conversations diverge. They create threads. And so you have one thing, and then you have two things, and you have four things, and eight things, and a gazillion things. And everybody's in their thread, everybody's shouting for attention. Follow my thread, follow my thread. I wanted to bring things together and converge them into a conversation. So that's what the C in C list stands for. So you may have noticed over here on the right-hand side, a big screen. I can take my content and add it. Oops, here we go. And let's put this in up here. I now have a cat scratching on my leg because it's lunchtime. And we can open the Blue Sky thing and we'll look at the timeline. We will look at the timeline. Maybe we won't look at the timeline. Blue Sky is being annoying. Nothing new there. See if the Blue Sky search. No. Okay, well, pretend that Blue Sky loaded something in there. Probably should have started with Blue Sky. It's not initializing, I guess, or it's when it's doubled up like this, there's a conflict or something. Anyhow, the main idea here, you notice here, I've got, and as I add stuff, you see the name of the thing that I'm adding come up here. And what it's also doing is it's keeping track of all the different resources as I add the resources. So it's creating a reference list. Lots of stuff we can do with that reference list. Right now, it just sort of sits there as a reference list. But the idea now is that there are multiple instances, multiple comments or bits of content from out there in the world. I'm bringing them together into a single authoring window and being able to address them all at once in a single post. And that's the convergence of the convergent discussion list. So the idea here now is that when I post my reply, what should happen, and you notice how I'm expressing that in a modal form, is that each person that I originally wrote to gets a notification that I replied. Now, right now, servers like Mastodon and Blue Sky don't support that. You can only put one reply post ID into the reply field at a time. So like when I post something, there's a field in reply to, and you can only put one thing in there. But why not a list? Why can't you have a list of things to reply to? So one of the things in the future is to write a small modification to Mastodon the server, and if necessary to Blue Sky the server, if they don't do it themselves, to allow multiple replies. Similarly, there are mechanisms such as web mentions to create replies for people who wrote blog posts. I send a reply that way. So the idea here is that when I write about multiple people, I'm sending the notifications to these multiple people as well, so that they can come back in and join to the converged discussion. Oh, oh no, that's right. Okay. Okay, so my client's a little bit more original than it was. So I have an editor window, And I should be able to put content into that editor window. Well, I can put content into that editor window. Here it is. But what if I was able to preload content? So I've just reloaded this just to make it clean again. So I have a load button here. And so I have various options. I can load a blank editor. OPML editor is not working yet, so I won't click on it. I can click on the text editor and we get what we just had. Or alternatively, I can load an HTML editor, and here's my HTML editor. This can be multiplied indefinitely, and I can load pretty much any sort of editor into there that I want. One of the things I can do is load files. So let's come back here and we'll load some files. Load. Okay. So let's load from the file system. Do I have anything that's not broken? Oh yeah, right. It's in images. Here we go. Something I made yesterday. I think they both work. Okay, now I'll load it into my editor. That's not my HTML editor. I didn't repair that. I thought I had. Well, anyhow, this is from yesterday. This is a conversation I was having yesterday. Let's load it into the text editor so it actually looks proper. If you're wondering what's happening there, why you're not seeing the actual HTML editor, it's because it's loading one div too early. So it needs to load one div down. It's an easy fix, but I didn't get to it before this because I've had some things going on this week. Okay, so let's load from the file system. Let's load the different Maxine one. And let's load it in text. And I wasn't very inspired with that one, but that's what's in that file. So I can load stuff from text. Or let's do something else. Load template doesn't work yet, but generate new template does. So let me create a template. I've got a couple of predefined, or you can choose the template that you want. You can choose an output format. And so I'll generate the template. See, I do have a spinny button. I just haven't implemented it on the OPML. That's all. So it takes a few seconds because AI is slow these days. But as I mentioned, I have my accounts. I have an account with ChatGPT, and this is connected with the ChatGPT account and sent in a request, which for some reason is not responding. Should have opened by now. Oh, there it is. It's just being slow. So, is it a good case study? Well, not particular. Or a good template? Not particularly. Did it open in the right window? No, it did not. It should have opened in the text editing window right here, but it did not. But you get the idea. Obviously, I'm still a bit glitchy loading into my tiny MCE window. I made a couple of changes right at the last minute, and that's what happened. So uh oh good. I really broke it. There we go. All right. Generate new template. Well, you can imagine it loading into this text window. So I told you things would break. I did promise that off the top. Uh so again, all I've done is standardized the way these different components load. And because it's standardized, then you can see what's happening, exactly what's happening with my tiny MCE. Instead of putting my content in right column here, or in this window here, I'm either putting it in this window, in this div here, or even worse, I think I'm putting it in right pane content, which means it's overwriting all of that stuff, which is not what I want. So I just need to change my div selection and it'll work, but I can't do that now because I'm doing a live demo. All right. Again, people's opinions about how this should be handled may change, but it's okay. So this is my editor's selection then. The editors select from the different types of editor. Right now, text and HTML, but we can imagine image, graphic design, any sort of thing, templates of any sort. We can generate these with OpenAI. It'll load a template that we can then edit. And the idea here too is that, we'll come back here. If I should have been generating a template. That's what I should have been doing. Okay. API URL. Go for, okay. Wonder what broke. Generate new template, choose an output format text. Huh. Okay, something broke. So, but pretend there's a template there, then I read stuff, say from CoSocial, and I can take the content from CoSocial and input that right into the template. So I can put quotes from, well, anything into my business plan, my business letter, my case study, my lab report, whatever. Okay, that used to work. And it will again. Because all of this stuff, I mean, from a programming perspective, all of this stuff is pretty simple. Uh, I've kept this as simple as possible so that stupid mistakes like this are just that, stupid mistakes, and not a major issue. All right, moving on. I wonder what else will break. Maybe this. One of the criticisms I got a lot when I was talking about the PLE is that, well, yeah, but you need social communities for online learning. And you do. Look what we're doing now, right? And it's so much better with a community of people. And so I've represented the community of people with this nice little icon. But how do we work with that community of people? Well, instead of editing in an editor on my own, I can edit in a collaborative editor. I could have used Google Cloud, but I really hate working with the Google API for various reasons. So I used Etherpad. So when I load, I'm going to load an Etherpad. These are existing Etherpads on the system. And so I'm loading one up. Here is predefined content in an Etherpad, and we can share that. Here it is. Close. Just in case you have doubts that Etherpad works. Can a Markdown editor be added? Asks Mark. Yes, a Markdown editor can be easily added. All I need to do is find one with an API, and preferably an open source one. Can be on a remote cloud anywhere, can be hosted locally. But definitely. So here's the URL for the Etherpad editor. And so I've put that into the chat. Not sure if you can see the cat. There's the tail. But yes, that's the same cat that left a present on the floor in front of the desk. It's lunchtime, you see. So, and again, let's read something. Let's read what we're following. Now, technically, there's a way to insert it right where the cursor is, but it would take me a couple of days to implement that. So I said, yeah. The cat has just made my, oh, there we go. I'll just add it at the bottom. There's Peter's thing. There's Mark's comment. There you go. Don't the Etherpad editor doesn't support Windows. Sorry about that. So anyhow, now a group of us together can work on this Etherpad. The cat is unplugging in my screen. So every once in a while it turns black. You have your sources. I have my sources. Those are our personal sources. Please stay away from the electrical outlets. We can all enter them in, and of course, we're keeping track of the references. Now, right now, the references don't merge. Because I don't know of a way of doing that. But, well, I do know, it's just complicated. But the idea is you're using your C list, I'm using my C list. If we're both using our C list, we can send a message from one C list to the other C list, containing the references, and then have a combined reference list. That is not implemented, but that's a planned future feature. So far, so good. We're getting there. Oh yeah. How are we supposed to make all of this work? Chat and share. And again, I've used some open source stuff, and I'm connected to a server that is most definitely not supposed to be used in production. But on this side here, we have a chat server. I can create a discussion. I'll just name it after myself. My name's not really Merle. We covered that. Create the discussion. Now, you and I and anyone else who's working in C-List can have a live conversation. This is a peer-to-peer chat system, so there's no central server. You might ask, well, how do we discover the chat? What this does, we'll come back here, is it contacts the KV store, my identity server. And if I start a discussion, it places the name of that discussion in a list on the server so that when somebody else comes along, they can see what discussions are currently live on the server and join them. So two people using this can engage in a single chat. Now, something that used to work but hasn't worked in testing in the last little bit is live sharing. Yeah. So it used to be I had a link here, and if I clicked on that link, the address for this Etherpad popped into the live chat that we were both having. And then if you clicked on that link, this Etherpad would open up automatically in your own C-List installation. That worked. It worked great. And now, right now, it doesn't. But it should. But it doesn't. Like I say. So yet another way of collaborating. You can imagine how this works. Now you can imagine the workflow, right? We're chatting over here, talking about an idea. I look up some sources, maybe somebody I'm following. I input what they're doing into our discussion. And then now that I've added this, right, I can actually move this wherever I want and, you know, put it in place. Whoops. And we'll put it here. Of course, I can edit it. And I have all what you see is what you get stuff here. So we can collaboratively work on this document. I don't know if anybody's actually trying to uh, trying to get into the Etherpad, but they should be able to. Okay. So I'm losing people. It must be one. Yeah. And this is because I started early. So I imagine they'll check in on the video later because we're not done yet. Anyhow, that's the chat. I've also added search and find because we need more content. So find, and so I've implemented DuckDuckGo, Google, and Oasis. DuckDuckGo has a very simple kind of search. Which isn't really a search. It just checks Wikipedia, IMDb, and a few common sources like that. So it's kind of like having a Wikipedia search, only it's DuckDuckGo. So it's not the real DuckDuckGo search. And again, I can take any of these search results and put them into my discussion. Google is kind of a limited search. It's the actual Google search. And again, I can add it to my discussion. And there's also a Google image search. And all right, the Etherpad doesn't support images. But if I was working in what you see is what you get editor, then I could just load the image into that editor. Let's just do that so you can see it. Just load a blank editor. There we go. I also connected to Oasis, which is open educational resources server. Again, these are all different OERs that are available on Iceland. I can load those into my search as well, or I can pop them open in a window like this. Where'd it go? It died. Oh, because it was a PDF. Okay. So the PDFs, it'll just load automatically in a new window. I don't know if I can open access book. It's not it's not the greatest of things. Oh, it's another PDF. There we go. So any open educational resource can be opened into the system. I used Oasis. I kind of kludged the API. I do know that Oasis is working on a full-featured JSON API of their own. That's not available right now as I've created this. Save. I mentioned earlier I can find stuff in my file system. I can also save. So here we go, save. I can save this as a local file. What this save as a local file does is it saves not just the content of the editing window, it saves it in a format that also allows it to save the references so that when I reload, and so remember I can load from file, um, load from file system. There it is, I believe. I should be able to see the references as well. And I cannot. But pretend I can. Oops, cancel. All right. So I don't know why that broke. But you can, well, I showed it earlier, you can load saved files. Okay. Next up. What good is a personal learning environment if you can't post stuff to different places? So here we have our PLE. Here we have some things that I want to talk about. Some information about Iceland that I would like to share. So now I can post this, and the way this works is I pick the account I would like to post it to, and I hit publish, and it posts that status. So here's the status that I've just posted to Mastodon. It clips it off because Mastodon has a length limit. I'm just going to delete this because the world doesn't need that particular Mastodon post. Similarly, come back here. I can choose Blue Sky. And now, if I've chosen both of these, it'll post this content to both Mastodon and Blue Sky at the same time. Now, I've been having issues with Blue Sky Publishing for no particular reason. I don't know why, but let's take a look just in case, because it might be working now. Blue Sky reports that it posted no problem, but then it doesn't. Oh, there's the repost that I did earlier. But yeah, it did not post that. It often takes a bit of time to post something, and it doesn't always post something, even though it says, yes, I will post what you gave me, and it doesn't. So maybe it's not making it through moderation. I don't know. The API is saying, yeah, it's great, but um, as well, oops, uh, sorry. For posting, we're not limited to social media. I can also, this Leftish is a WordPress blog that I can post to. I'm not going to actually post to it. Half an hour is a blogger blog. If I post to all of these at the same time, what is supposed to happen, but does not currently happen, is it posts the full length text in these blogs. It takes the first one, which in this case is Leftish, takes the URL from that post and posts that into social media. So yeah, right now it's not cycling through the full list. So it's just posting that one thing. This is the what it looks like if I try to post to Blogger. And presumably it posted that to Blogger. Let's have a look and we'll find out. And oops, it's making me sign in because Google. Yeah, there it is. There's the Iceland thing. So I'll delete that later. So what should happen is it posts the blog post here, gets the URL from this blog post back from the server, takes that URL, wraps it with the title, and posts it on social media. So that you do all of that just by clicking the one button. Um, Also supports mobile. So we have the four major panes, left, read, right, and right. And you can just swipe back and forth between them. And then the workflow is exactly the same on mobile as it is for the desktop app. There isn't a separate application. I didn't make something special for uh, iPhone or anything like that. It's all, again, HTML and CSS. Um, I'll be covering all of these concepts, how to get your account up and running the on CList for all the different applications, working out the bugs, talking about features, talking about the issues behind the features, and something called FediMOOC. FediMOOC is starting on February 17th. That's a Monday. It's 3 weeks or so from now. And the future, well, in addition to making all the stuff that is there work, there's all kinds of things that can be done with this, working on this basic platform. All of the other Fediverse services, more open educational resources and other resources, even devices, Internet of Things stuff, computer connected labs, whatever. everything to do with competencies and job search. That can all go into, search for a job, find the competencies, then find the resources that support those competencies, feed them into the read field. Different types of content, uh, not just to read it, but to edit it in the editor, including simulations, H5P, graphs, VR, moving into the multi-user things, not just Etherpad, but discourse, maybe project management, Mahara, Mattermost, etc. For publishing on IPFS for decentralized publishing or cloud storage, Ghost, other publications, other types of publications, even email newsletters, and then again more educational things like badges or API LRS shared bookmarks, as I mentioned before, and Zotero. All of that would work with the same sort of system. So that's what I've got now. Uh, like I said, not a finished product by any stretch, and I've never promised that it was. But I wanted people to see it, see what it is, get a sense of what it can do, get a sense of how it can change the way we do educational technology in a way that is much more person centered and user centered rather than platform centered, monetization centered, surveillance centered, etc. There is AI involved, but it's not AI dependent and you don't have to use it. And it isn't just a bunch of AI content being fed to people that they then memorize. It's supposed to be collaborative and interactive, as well as usable with all the sources of resources that you might have available. So, what should happen next? I'd like to see people try it and tell me what's broken. I'd like to get a sense of what people would like to see next. Like Mark asked for a markdown editor, stories describing what it's used for if people are using it. All the code is now available on GitHub so that people can suggest fixes or make improvements. Like I said, everything is written in JavaScript, so the code is very accessible. You don't need to learn how to use various platforms and code libraries. It's plain vanilla JavaScript. Very proud of that. Documentation to make it easier for people. Better security. It's kind of sort of secure, but it should be better. Also, having other people host applications, for example, Etherpad servers or conversation servers, or other instances of OPML to JSON. Additional JavaScript support applications, publicity, and then if this does become used by people who are not me, governance, so that all of this stuff can be organized. Again, the idea here isn't here's an application that Stephen owns and he determines everything that's on it. I can't control what is done with this at all. It's all out there in easy to read code that anybody can use on their own and play with. And so, and it can be changed. You can add your own JavaScript to it, change the design, whatever, very easily. So a few links to wrap up. Here's the GitHub repository. Um, any future project news or updates will be on that page. Eventually, again, depending on use, there'll be a blog, but certainly any announcements will be on that page. This presentation, which hopefully YouTube recorded, um, will be available at this URL as well as the slides that I've just presented. So that's CList. I hope you enjoyed that. That's not CList. This is CList. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you find that useful. And we'll see what happens to it in the future. Any comments, questions?
Well, I just want to say thanks, Stephen. This is exciting. Like everybody else, it's impossible to keep up with all this federated stuff. And
Yeah.
so if you make that even a little bit easier, I appreciate it. I have a million questions, but this isn't the time or the place. So, um, yeah, just thanks.
Okay. Getting a nice thumbs up from Nick. Thank you, Nick.
And you had people, it was a small group, but you had people,
Mhm.
I assume Paul's in South Africa. I don't know, he travels a lot. So you had people from South
Yeah.
Africa
Yeah.
and all over the place. So this is good.
Okay. Oh, I think, and I see the Fedi forum link that you've put up there.
Yeah, that's a
More
great
info.
event. That's
Yeah.
it's an unconference and you can just go in and
Oh, well,
select a slot
okay.
for your presentation. You don't have to ask permission from anybody.
Right.
So
I'll
I would
do that
encourage you
then.
to present. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's excellent.
Yeah. Easily done. And those
Yeah.
days are free. So how about that?
Oh, good. Yeah, organized out of Oakland, California.
Okay. Anyone else before I
That's
go? Sorry.
no, I was just going to say best experience around the Fediverse that I had last year was that.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Off to the
Okay.
next.
Off to the next. I gotta feed my cat now.
Yeah, your poor cat.
All
Ah,
right. Bye,
bye now.
everyone.
Pitchers and catchers report.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Probably not as much as you are.
Well, I expect to be disappointed, but that's okay. I'm used to it.
Yeah. Okay. How
Bye.
do